Welcome to the exit interview. Today we are doing an on-air segment where Kisha and I are going to be talking about second lives, second careers, when to know when to exit, how to position yourself, and also maybe that second career is also working for somebody else. Kisha,
yes,
I read a stat that said the average person starts a new career at 39, which is surprising. I think most people in that stage of life are, well, I don't know about now with all of the people having less kids, but most people are in family life at that point.
Yeah, the stakes are higher for sure.
You have probably been at a job for a good amount of time and pretty much looking to get your name on that door for that corner office, I think, at least traditionally, or get into some sort of like seniority position where you're commanding authority and being a bigger presence and anchoring yourself within a company. Reading that stat is interesting because it actually says no, that a lot of people decide to make a pivot.
Especially now, like you're hitting ceilings, things are changing, companies are merging, like your whole company might be completely different from up under you, or you might not be feeling the same kind of level of fulfillment, or you might just be going through a layoff, quite frankly. So you're, some of it I'm sure is voluntary, some of it might be, forced. I think it's important to remember there are some people who might, even if you're starting over, it doesn't mean that all your skill set is washed away and all that you've done doesn't apply.
Yeah.
Like having worked at startups before, like I know that there are people who have come from other industries who have been like top of their game at other industries, but came into like our startup to really be like that advisory role to help lend some structure to a very fast-paced, moving environment. And they may not be like the head of the startup or the founder, but they have a still senior role in that environment where they're using all their skill sets, using everything that they know, using all of the experiences that they've had to help kind of younger people or another generation scale up quickly. So I think that's one way that people can transfer those skills. Sometimes even it's like I said, it might be like a shift in industry. You might like, transition from, I know in film, like there are people like transitioning to like marketing and even digital, from like more traditional media, because that's honestly like where the growth is. I'm sitting here doing a podcast with you right now.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact.
As a matter of fact.
And I'm a little older than 39.
Right.
I do think there is like taking some traditional skill sets coming from more like traditional media and transitioning those skills into digital and learning a few things. But also like there are some fundamental principles that apply, obviously. So I think that there are, so many ways to pivot in that context. I think there's so many ways to use what you have, potentially add a few skill sets to, and either be mentor-like to another generation, again, help them scale up and upskill quickly. Yeah. It's also a time for people to be creating and building something. It doesn't have to be exclusively, because not everyone's built to like be an entrepreneur and like build $1 million business. Not everyone's built that way. But it's, I think the linearness, like what we've all seen and known, like the one job for 30 years with the Rolex and the jacket at the end.
That's dead.
Yeah. She gone.
Yeah.
She gone.
Yeah.
So there's, like I said, hybrid things, consulting, there's like restructuring what you're doing in other ways, but still being valuable. But I think it's less title driven, corner office, kind of shiny coin.
That doesn't carry the clout it used to anymore.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, a part of that is because the generations who occupied those seats don't want to leave.
We haven't worked out how to really transition people.
How to transition boomers out.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's across industry, across market.
Yeah.
So they're holding on because, they still feel like I have life and vitality in me.
Because we are living longer.
Yeah. I don't want to just, kind of roll off to the island,
Yeah.
They still want to be,
room.
there's nowhere else to go.
Right.
And that's the succession planning and like figuring out how to give the proper honorific to people who have done their term in duty and give them a right way to offboard has been an issue. So there's a glut where the roles aren't turning over as like naturally as they used to.
But they're also, it's not going to get solved because those people are also the decision makers and the priority setters.
Yeah.
And they're not prioritizing succession. They're not prioritizing what they're going to do beyond.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, at least in corporate America, a lot of executives who are for public companies or just across the board, more traditional corporate, it's too tied to their identity.
Yeah.
And so therefore it's like, what do?
They don't know how to be,
they don't know how to
not
detach.
They don't know how to not be what they are.
I think when COVID happened, there was a little bit of a spike of succession planning, but for the most part, I think most companies wait until the hand is forced.
Yes.
And that then has created now
It's stagnation. Yeah.
And so that would give credence to why so many people in that statistic switch at 39. But I think that number, that average now of amount of people may even be more than average. It might end up swinging the other way of most people in their 30s, late 30s, or even early 40s are going to have to start over because of our current environment.
Yeah.
Because of all the mergers and acquisitions, because of the AI disruption, which is leading to a bunch of layoffs, because of the government restructurings, which is also lending itself to a lot of layoffs. And I think just the change in prioritization landscape. I think the world right now is in turmoil and chaos in most places. And that is giving additional anxiety to everyone. So we see people moving countries. We see people moving states. We see people jumping jobs by choice or not by choice.
Out of the box, decision
there
making.
was a mass amount of, we'll get the jobs report here soon, but there was a mass amount of layoffs in 2025.
A lot of women also leaving the workplace as well.
Close to pandemic levels, I believe, or maybe even surpassing. A lot of women are leaving the workforce because of the issues around childcare, because of, there's tons of reasons for that. We can unpack that in an entire episode, And I think though, let's think about this practically. I don't think that people should continue to think my title is my security, my position at my company is my security, and I'm untouchable. I think everyone is replaceable today, even the C-suite. Everybody is replaceable in the current environment. And so thus, everybody should be thinking about, well, if I'm not here, then what? So what does that look like? What does that practice look like? How should people start to unpack that, accept it, and consider a plan B?
I mean, to your point, I feel like it's happening naturally. It used to be very stigmatized. Like, it was like, oh, why are you leaving and what's going on? And like, people were kind of expected to kind of stay in one place. And I think the stigma around moving about the cabin has definitely shifted. So I feel like people naturally like kind of are keeping their heads on a swivel. Except for like there's some rarefied air where, you might be very incentivized. I mean, there are places where you're very incentivized to just stay put, where they make it very hard for someone to pull you out of the comfort zone, that they're in. And shout out to those places; those are great places. But I think for the most part, like people kind of, I think now are come in almost planning. Like, okay, I might do this. Not for 5 or 10 years, but for 2 years. Like, I feel like in people's minds already, the terms are less. I feel like people are getting long-term contracts less, especially as tech takes over more spaces and they don't have the same structure or they have a higher, they're used to a higher turnover, whereas there have been companies that have built on people stay there for years and years and years. That mentality is shifting. I think some for good and some not so much. I think there's plus and minuses to that mentality. But for sure, I think as AI gets more prominent or people's use of it, and it's like just a tech mindset, even if it's not a tech company, but a tech mindset comes into the workforce, the stability is what gets.
I don't think people should seek stability at all anymore. There is none.
Yeah. We're moving more so into a creator economy where people are building things, creating things, and then buying and selling that thing that they're creating, as opposed to exchanging this skill set for this,
security.
this security money like that. The labor exchange you can feel the earthquake of it all.
Yeah.
And so it's created some opportunities and flexibility. And I think, listen, you have to just sort of be like, okay, what's over here? What's next? Like, how can I reframe these skill sets? How can I be of use? And how can I look at this market and figure out what does it need? And how can I in particular be of use to it?
Yeah.
But I think that's just where it's coming for all of us.
It is. Yeah.
It's coming for everybody.
I agree with you. We're moving into like a creator economy. I think that now it's just been opened up that there are so many different ways to make money. And therefore have a career. Like there weren't influencers 10 years ago.
Sure.
There weren't creators 20 years ago. And now
in the digital context. Yeah, for sure.
There wasn't
even 10 years ago.
There was online shopping on QVC, then that went away, and now it's coming back on TikTok.
Right.
And there wasn't AI companies now. Or at least not mainstream, and now look, it's like everything is over-indexed. Yeah, exactly. So I think there's just like been an evolution. I also think too, people are seeing that younger people are finding financial success, and that I think makes the older generations be like, "What am I doing?" you know,
there's an interesting expectation I find in the younger generation that they are going to somehow become like everyone wants to be a millionaire by 26, kind of, which is
it used to be. It's kind of replaced.
Highly unrealistic,
it's kind of replaced the expectation of I want to make six figures.
Right now, now it's like everyone wants to be a millionaire at 26, 27 years old, and it's like, okay, not everyone's going to be a millionaire at 26. So there's a weird.
Because we've seen all these kids, respectively, 18, 19, 20, who made it big through TikTok and made millions of dollars, and the Forbes list just came out of like biggest creators, and Charli D'Amelio was on there, and she became famous when she was a kid. I mean, and these kids are still holding on to their income.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're making way more than most people who have been at a corporate job with a corner office looking over the skyline with the name on their door.
Hello, we're making $400,000
and
a month.
They're working way less.
Yeah. At this point, they're just leveraging the library.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like it continues to make money and continues to like add value. So you don't have to create at the same volume, but you get to kind of like leverage what that is and then do deals and partnerships.
But they figured out a new ecosystem that didn't exist before. And I think that's giving, if people are getting laid off, it's giving pause to the contemplation of, am I going to now apply to work at another job for somebody else in a corporate environment, or do I try this new thing that the kids have figured out?
Right.
Because they figured it out. I mean,
or even working with
people
those
like
people.
to give shit to Gen Z about that they don't want to work and stuff. And and I think some in corporate
they don't
environments,
want to work 9 to 5.
They don't want to work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I think in some corporate environments and things like that, we see it, for sure. You know what it is? We got brainwashed. I feel like Gen X and millennials got brainwashed that we have to be in this hustle culture, and we have to grind and take the abuse and put your head down, and
they watched us burn out in front of their eyes.
Well, it was and it was like the more that you can show that you can almost get to burnout but not burn out, like the more valued you were. Yeah. And it was a gauntlet, like it was a hazing almost. Right? Like there's a corporate hazing in a sense that it's like an unofficial corporate hazing.
Absolutely.
In a lot of industries.
I still feel very indoctrinated.
You know what? And then Gen Z rolled up and was like, oh no.
Yeah. Like we want to prioritize our mental health and well-being.
Why? No. Yeah. I don't want that corner office that bad.
Right. I don't want to do if that's what it takes. I don't. It's not worth it to me.
It's because they watched their parents. Yeah. In that environment, probably. Yeah. And we're like, I don't want that. Like, what? No. Yeah. And then they see their peers making money in innovative ways, and they're
like, I'd rather do that.
Yeah. It's so interesting. So over the course of my career, I interviewed different interns over time, and young Gen Z people in the company. And one time we were at a dinner, and I was talking to them about, social media, and they don't
go on social media?
No.
Good for them.
And they don't do the updates, and they don't want to update their phones. Oh, and I was like, what?
So it was like a blowback?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I say, why? And they're just like, oh, I just feel like so much better when I'm not on social media all the time. And I was like, what? You feel like you're getting brainwashed? Absolutely was their answer. And they said, so I just stay off that stuff. Now, given these were gentlemen that I was talking to, guys, but they were very adamant about wanting to disconnect with their phone. I was at a dinner last night, and there was a Gen Z person at the table with us, and we were all chatting and whatever. And I was on my phone working on Reel. He never brought his phone out once.
Oh, interesting. Well, I think
I was like,
that's so interesting. That's so interesting. No, I think part of what's going to happen is that, like I said, like human connection, like almost the detachment.
The pendulum is swinging back.
It'll be a different, it's almost like a prestige indicator now, like being off the grid, in that sense. Like being able to critically think for yourself, being able to actually connect without all the devices, like being able to have a skill set outside of the digiverse is going to somehow become like a prestige indicator or like have a different level of commodity that I don't have to be filtered through and out of these systems is going to, it's interesting. I feel like the way AIs go, like just to get a human being on the phone, it's like, oh, you want to talk to a person?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's just going to cost you $2,000 a month. That's fine. We can do that for you. But like everyone else is going to start getting like the digital experience is going to be like for the masses. And if you want real human connection, oh, you can have it, but it'll cost you extra. Like dealing with real people, being in the real world is somehow going to be like the premium experience because everyone's going to be plugged in somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It's curious. I think if you're in a position where you think you might be part of a layoff or your company's going through a merger and you're going to keep your job, but now your workload is going to drastically. So here's what is the unspoken, the elephant in the room.
Sure.
The companies are laying off, but the work remains.
Yeah.
And the work actually increases when you're going through any sort of deal.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a very stressful time for people. It's a very stressful time.
Managers or employees of affected departments where their colleagues are getting laid off in their departments. What should they do?
People are just sucking it up right now, to be honest. Like, people are just being like, I'm terrified to be out here. The market is really crazy. I'm not a fan. I don't love this situation. I don't love that I'm being given 10 times more to do with half or a quarter of the staff I had to do it. But I'm going to try to just, like, make it work. It's like, when you're in a marriage that's, like, rocky, but then you get pregnant.
Yeah. Well,
you're like, okay.
So why is it? What is the root of why people are job hugging?
Oh, because there's just so much terror. There's just so much fear about being like, it's the at least I have something, because they're watching all their friends get laid off. They're watching all their friends like submit resumes and barely be able to get interviews, barely be able to get a tug, sit out, and good people, smart people, get like connected people, like sit on the marketplace for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, year and a half, like, and they're like, I can't. They're just terrified. Like, they're afraid to do it. Like I said, at this point, people got kids, got that mortgage. How am I going to connect this? And a lot of people don't have done Runway, you know what I mean, to sit on the market for 9 months, to 12 months, like if it comes to that. Or maybe their partner has been laid off and it's just like we're down to like this like one salary and like someone else is watching the kids so you can like keep the lights on. It's sheer terror. The amount of panic and fear that I know you hear, I know I hear. And again, we're not just talking about one market. We're not talking about one industry. We're talking about multiple markets, places that seem super secure, industries that seem like, oh, well, you'll always work because you're this. It's happening in places where it hasn't before. So people are holding, looking, but not willing to let go. Yeah. Not until they're like forced to.
I do think that there's two categories of people in this environment. There are people who will be able to have a little bit of runway if they get laid off, whether that's because they have enough savings in the bank, they have another spouse who does okay or better than them, or they're going to get some sort of severance package that is going to be comfortable.
Yeah, for at least a year or two. Yeah.
Then there's another bucket of people that they're living paycheck to paycheck. They don't have that runway. They don't have a significant other. They have to feed mouths, or they have to pay rent or a mortgage. And they're not sure they're going to get a severance, or if they do, it's not going to be significant enough to allow them comfortable amount of time to find a job. And then they feel like they're going to get forced into doing a job that maybe is not
what they really want
to do just to survive.
Sure.
So I think there's two categories of people. I want to address the category of people who will have a little bit of runway first. I think for those people, this is the prime opportune time.
Absolutely.
To do what you want to do.
Yeah. Because you have time. You've got like a little breathing room, a little runway. You know, normally that first 3 months is just like the brain's cooling. You know?
I think it's like the best time to reflect. But I do think that you should start doing that work now. Like if you're employed now and your company is going to go through some sort of deal, or you're worried there's going to be a round of layoffs that you might be part of next, or even you are like a manager of a department, or your department is getting heavily disrupted and the work is going to like overpile on you, and you have the ability to walk, or they're going to say goodbye to you, and you're going to have a runway. In a nice
way, yeah.
And you're going to have a runway. You should be reflecting right now and being like, okay, I'm probably going to be in this exit bucket, not by choice, more than likely, or by choice. I don't know, whatever.
Kind of, you know, choice
in between. But you should be thinking about, okay, well, then what do I want my next life to look like? And as you're employed, everything you do at your company should be towards building skills towards that.
I don't disagree with you, but I feel like what I see actually happen is that once you've gotten to that place and you kind of know, all right, my severance is coming, or like I'm gonna, you know, my package is coming, a lot of times, because you're dealing with, I've been through 2 or 3 mergers, I'm running 14 departments when I used to run 2, like the burnout is so heavy that I find that people are, outside of just a top level conversation, it's really hard for them to get into the mindset of really planning for the next step.
Yeah.
Maybe like a networking thing, but I find that the real strategy and planning, it's hard to do
when you're in the thick of it.
Right in the thick of it. It tends to happen more realistically. Like I said, 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later.
I agree with that. I think it is difficult, but I do think that it would be advantageous to try to do that. So, for example, if you have to if you now suddenly inherited tons of projects, and it's just very clear that there's way more work than what you should be doing because of all of the disruption, you ultimately have to prioritize. And some of that we can't control, for sure. Right. But of the things you can control, you should prioritize yourself in that prioritization.
Oh, meaning I totally agree with that.
Like prioritize the projects where like this is actually going to help me build this skill set or do this thing that'll
work after. There'll be a leverage point.
As a leverage point, 100%. As opposed to, you know, the more like obvious thing of maybe what your company would want to see immediately.
I agree.
Like if you can control the prioritization, if you can control the project bucket, then you should prioritize those projects based off of what's going to help you for your skill set.
What can I use from here? How can I use this platform? And so, that I 100% agree with you now.
Everybody get their LinkedIn refreshed. Don't wait.
Absolutely.
Get your LinkedIn refreshed. Have your resume ready to hand to anywhere.
To your point about the rebuilding the LinkedIn and the resume, tailoring that if need be towards like highlighting the skill sets based on where you feel like you're going versus potentially where you are.
And we've had guests tell us that. We've had guests say, like your personal brand, when we had you know, the former executive from Mattel come on, and he had said, build your personal brand, not necessarily for where you're at, where you want to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. But, you know, another piece of that puzzle, which is arguably the hardest piece, is you need to know what you want to do and what you want. That's why people are confused and not successful, because especially when you have so much demand from your company, it starts to blur you of what is it that you actually want. What you're good at and what you're delivering may not necessarily coincide with what you want and where you want to go.
That's true.
Do you know
true.
what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think people need to like take a second to reflect and think about that.
Absolutely.
And figure out like where are you wanting to go and how you then should like focus more on that.
Exactly.
You know?
And I think there's an internal debrief, like, what have I delivered? Where have I excelled? Like, where are my best metrics at? Where have I like over-indexed in terms of like performance? There's that like almost like SWOT analysis. Then like, what skills do I want to build? What gets me now based on where I am excited? Are you in a training space? Are you in a learning space? Are you in like I want to build my own thing space? Like just really figuring out like what's lighting your grid up.
Yeah.
Then you can look at the market and sort of be like, okay, where is this trending? Like in a emotional way. Like you may not like where or how it's trending, but like, okay, where is the market trending? And then taking all those three components and then mapping out a course of action for you. Also based on, again, everyone's got a different temperament. Everyone's got a different, some people are like, I really do need another kind of like 9-to-5 structured job. Okay. Some people are like, okay, I can really do this consulting thing and that's really going to work with, for me.
Let's talk about the other bucket of people, which is people who don't have that runway. And, they may be getting laid off or not getting a package that's significant enough. How should they be navigating their situation if they're like, I'm definitely on the chopping block?
Listen, I think the hardest part is just keeping yourself upbeat and optimistic. If you're feeling like I already don't have a lot of options, I'm already feeling like I have a lot of time, the fear and the panic can really paralyze you because you're just like you could spend a lot of time stuck that you need to be spending moving, but the fear makes sense, This
is the critical question.
Yeah.
Do they spend all their time and energy trying to anchor themselves in their current volatile environment? Or do they start looking and preparing to find another environment?
Yeah, I think if you see change coming, a lot of times,
Because I think the default response of fear is like anchor yourself in.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't necessarily, I feel like then you're almost setting yourself up for a longer runway of that anxiety.
Yeah, but it's just in human nature, it's just what happens.
Might be more advantageous to start looking.
Which is why I say, like, the hard part is getting yourself mentally to the place where you can calm the internal tightness. Like, everything's like,
yeah.
And you may know inevitably it's this is not going to work. This is not going to work, and I need to be like this.
Yeah.
But it's just a human nature thing. You constrict, especially when you have pressures. I mean, it's happened to me.
Yeah.
I've done both versions where I kind of see the writing on the wall, and I'm like, you know what? Let me strategize and stay limber and move. And I've done the version where I kind of see the writing on the wall and I grip, and it happens anyway.
Yeah,
you can't like the thing happens.
I do think
anyway.
though that it's like, and I know it's so difficult to apply for jobs and look for a job while you're employed with the job, particularly a job that's high demand and like burnout inducing, and you're getting so much work and delivery.
Yeah.
But I do think like the pain of going through looking for another job parallelly and making that jump could be more advantageous than this pain of like being anchored in. Yeah. I think
staying on the balls of your feet in general is why it's the better position.
I think like you think about the calculation of what your severance may be, and you're okay. Maybe you get 1 month severance or 2 month severance. Is it worth waiting another 6 months to get that 1 or 2 month severance? Or should you be like, no, let me just find another job in that 6 to 8 months, essentially now, that's either going to pay the same or even a little bit less, but it'll give me a little bit more stability and peace of mind.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, I think the second you feel like it's time to move, it's time to move.
Yeah. I do think like for our listeners, I think right now the environment is the expectation is that the employer has all the control. And I don't necessarily think that should be the default mindset. I do think, no, you can still take control.
Yeah.
It's going to take time and it's going to take effort and it's not going to be fun.
No.
But you don't need to wait to see what your future is going to be in 6 months and then get that small severance package. You can start looking now and find something parallel. It's not going to be easy, but you might actually learn some things and get more doors open and meet some people that you otherwise wouldn't if you just like kind of put your head in the sand in this environment where you're just like waiting for them to like uncover your head.
I know. Yeah,
know?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And
No,
I know
mean,
it's easier said than done.
Of course. And listen, like, to your point, I think acceptance, and I get torn in this space because I do think the volatility in the market, in the world, and then specifically in the job market is so mentally taxing.
Yeah.
That to sometimes when you're like, well, just, move here or think you can ignore that sort of reality of like sitting and trying to do a job and going, when you get into your life and it can be really hard to separate, to see the wood for the trees when you're just in it. So I'm empathetic to the fact that these are challenging things to do when you're actually in the thing.
Yeah, it's very hard.
When you're in the thing. Nevertheless, I do the way this life market time is.
Yeah,
I don't see any other option.
I don't see any. I just think everybody needs to operate now, just accepting the fact that no, you're not secure.
No,
and so you should be doing things to prepare yourself for that insecurity.
Absolutely,
and just accept it.
Absolutely.
And make moves that are going to...
And that's all things. That's whether that's constantly kind of staying on the balls of your feet in terms of like keeping your head on a swivel for you're always networking. You're always looking for opportunities. You're always updating your LinkedIn resume, not just at the every 6 months.
Call.
You're always taking a recruiter call. You're always looking for what's trending,
you should
what's
be
happening in the market.
On things on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
To get some exposure.
Maybe you're becoming a certain known for having a certain expertise and writing about that, doing panels around that, being speaking about that to increase, like I said, the level of personal branding that you want for yourself so that people know, oh, Shauna's really, really good at this, and everyone knows that. And it's not just like a whisper network of people at your company, but it's other people outside.
Right. And I think people shouldn't be worried about the hierarchy in the company, because I think people, before it was like, oh, no, only the experts are writing stuff for the company, and that may be true for your company. But on your LinkedIn profile, there's nothing stopping you from posting your thoughts. Now, don't get me wrong. I come from a very heavily regulated company, so we had to get approval for things that we would say from compliance. But that doesn't mean you can't say them.
Absolutely.
Go through the process of doing that. Go through and get the compliance approval if you need to do that. But put your education out there and your wisdom out there, and start being more active. Comment on articles that you read anyway. I think the biggest mistake everyone is making right now is being a lurker on LinkedIn.
Right. And not actually saying
and not
stuff.
Being an active participant.
Well, and I think
if you
that's harder for us.
If you want to make one change that's going to benefit you in the next 2 to 3 years or even 6 months, be an active participant on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Not a lurker.
And here's the thing. I think for younger people, that's easier. For my generation, we were cultivated in a way where you look for work by not looking for work. Right?
I know. That needs to go away.
I'm clear.
Yeah.
I think, though, there's a lot of conditioning that's happened where you kind of look, you didn't really openly do things.
It's perceived as disrespectful to the company.
Yes. And also in our industry, which can be, with my industry in particular, the second you interviewed somewhere.
Oh yeah, then you're in the spotlight in a negative way.
Honey, by the time you make it back to lunch for your little seat, you would have to literally I've gone in back doors in places to do interviews because I couldn't let my current job. Yeah. So it wasn't so easy to just hop into an interview. You know, you had to kind of sometimes do it a little clandestinely. But I think we were trained and conditioned to be to not look so desperate, to not stand out so much, to not be so noisy. We were kind of conditioned into kind of an etiquette kind of a thing.
The relationship with your company even after you leave.
Yes.
I left on good terms.
Yes.
What does that mean, really? It's funny. I want to unpack that for a second, because everybody's always they want to be perceived like they left the company on good terms. And I think at the surface level, universally, that means that somebody reached out to you to leave, and it was a good opportunity that you couldn't refuse, and everything about it had to be exponentially better than your current situation, so that you're giving no shade to your current company.
Right.
Who cares? Who fucking cares? Even if it, like, you know, and then there's a shame around, like, you taking a pay cut or you having, like, a lesser of something. You know what I mean?
Because you might want to be at that company, or you might want to do that role, or you might want to pivot in a certain way.
Yeah. And it's like,
why would you
no.
leave this to do that?
Yeah.
You know? But it might be like that's where your passion is, and that's where you're
I think now people just need to own what they love, who they are. Just own who you are and own what you love.
Yeah.
I took this company. It's a parallel move, and it's not more money or it's less money, but this is what I want to do.
Yeah. No,
I think there's like that we've been conditioned to be shamed about making decisions based off of what we want
versus what everyone
what
thinks
the perception
we should do.
of what the expectation
no,
of
and for
success
sure
is.
you can't give two shits what anyone else thinks about what move you're making, what you're pivoting into, because it'll be those same people 5 years later be like, oh my God, like, can I pick your brain for like 30 minutes and ask you da-da-da-da-da?
Yeah.
And I definitely think it's a time for people to, if you see the things shifting, you may not be able to wait for everyone to understand it or know it. You got to just move because things are moving so fast that like by the time everyone figures it out, those jobs are gone. Yeah. By the time everyone like by the time it's socially acceptable to make that whatever. Like I said, it's dried up. You can't get in there, and it's not entry level anymore. You would have had to have been doing it for 5 years in order to be here now. Right. So I definitely think because things are moving faster and because things are shifting faster, it lends itself to a more self-centered, in a way, approach. Not self-centered in like
it's just ego.
Selfish like way, but like you have to think again. You have to go into these jobs not thinking about like, oh, I'll just sit here for the next 10, 15, 20 years, you have to think about what am I trying to get here? Like you have to make sure you're doing their agenda, but have your agenda too, on top of it and always be knowing like, okay, I'm here to learn how to run a staff of this size. I'm here to learn how to, network with a board or have board experience. I'm here to do have your own goals on top of anything you're doing.
It's very important for everybody to have their own goals right now and 100%. Know what you want and know what you will feel good about doing. And continue to do, or something that you want to do. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying go burn bridges at your company and leave. Like I'm not saying that. But I'm saying
to not be pigeonholed.
Don't be pigeonholed and don't be bashful about finding another opportunity
that works for you.
That works for you. And I think the easiest answer people can give nowadays with all this environment is crazy, and with that gives the opportunity for anything goes. And so I think if like people are like, oh, why did you leave? The simplest answer is it's a better fit. That's it. Yeah. It's a better fit for me.
Yeah. And it might not be convenient for them. If you're doing a good job and they want to keep you there, they may not be thrilled that you're leaving. But everyone kind of understands, like, hey, it shouldn't burn that shouldn't burn bridges. And if it does, then you made the right move.
Choice. Yeah.
You 100% made the right move. Yeah.
Okay, so final thoughts on this. Okay, so if you're somebody who just listened to this and now you're on the bubble, let's call it the bubble. Anybody who's kind of in this environment where they're like, I don't know if I need to leave. I don't know if I'm going to get laid off. I don't know what my future is right now. I'm just holding on for dear life, and like we'll see, I don't know. They're looking for an answer. They're looking for their North Star. What would be the first piece of advice? What should they do when after dinner when they're home tonight?
Get out a journal and get all the thoughts you can out of your head. You can't make these kind of big decisions just with all the thoughts jumbling around in your head because all your fears are in there, all the future stuff is in there, all the, oh my God, how am I going to pay my mortgage is in there. Like, I just did this with a client literally recently, and it was like we were thinking about 3 different options and choices and we were manifesting a fourth. And it was like, we just stopped. I was like, let's put it all on paper. Option A is this. Option B is this. How does it feel when you write that? How does it feel in your body? Like what tingles, what turns off, what turns on, what comes up? And just literally like kind of just put everything out there. And I think once you can see things in black and white, it starts to get some of the next steps start to get clear, even if they're scary for you, even if it's like, this is what I really want, but I don't. That always emerges like, this is what I really want, but I don't know if I can do that. Yeah. It's just good to know, like, okay, these are the things. And to just, and then take one step. Choose one thing from those list of 4 that you can actually do. Maybe it's just calling someone for advice. Call someone who works at that company that you're kind of really interested in. Do one thing. Like, A, write it all out. Technically, it's 2 things. And then B, do one thing. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. I think that's really good advice. I would say from another just like very like practical standpoint is you should do an evaluation of your numbers. You should go home, look at all your overhead, see what is variable that you can cut if you need to cut later, and what needs to keep and what is strict. And I think a lot of times when people go through that exercise, like really go through it and do a budget and start, looking at like what savings do you really have and get a real good hold on your financial situation.
Absolutely.
A lot of the times it gives you peace of mind and it allows you to make better decisions because you know exactly where you are. I'm not saying that it may not all be like sunshine and roses when you go through that exercise.
Oh,
but
a lot of times it's not. They're hard decisions.
But you'll have a very good handle on exactly where you are, and that will allow you to make better decisions.
Absolutely.
And I also would encourage people not to be afraid right now to dip into savings if you need to.
Or to downscale.
But I also think just to like dip into your savings. Like that's why savings are there.
Yeah.
And people are always so like, don't touch it. You touch it now in these situations. But think about it as in like, you're going to touch it for what? You obviously don't want savings just to burn through your savings to carry your overhead.
Nobody wants that.
But think about the opportunities that you can invest it in or build something. Or maybe you'll surprise yourself and be like, oh, what if I took this, I don't know, I'm making up a number, $10,000 and I want to start this business consulting. Do I spend the $350 to create my LLC just to have it?
Right. And making those decisions. Yeah, absolutely. No, the financial, to your point, I think the financial analysis, like what's my burn? What am I really doing? So what could I potentially like trim? New Year's a perfect time to like start
to go
looking at what you're doing anyway and
Yeah.
tracking that if you haven't been.
Yeah.
And then figuring out where can I potentially downsize or
Cut
shift.
the fat, cut your subscriptions.
Yeah, all of that. But yeah, like figuring out like what shifts can I make to help me like contain. So if I do have to go into savings, the burn is less.
Yeah.
And then just like to your point, I think just sometimes those exercises, anything that makes you feel like you're a little bit more in control.
Correct.
Is going to help you.
And it's going to lower the anxiety.
Stable, exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's what, like the fear makes you feel like, I don't know what you're waiting for this company to make the decisions. You're waiting for this merger to come through. No one knows what's going on. No one knows what's happening. So as much as you can do to feel like, okay, this is what I can do with my own 2 hands that I can control. Any number of those actions you can take, financial analysis, job analysis, market analysis, your skill, it's going to help you feel more grounded, going to help you feel like you're not powerless. The world isn't coming out from under you. And just being in that place mentally is going to help you take action and make decisions.
Yeah.
Because that's what's hard. When you don't know all the answers and everything feels like chaos, you get paralyzed at a time where the only way out is making decisions and then making another one and taking action and making decisions and taking action. And that's what's hard.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, too, another thing that we've learned from some of our guests in the past is if you think that you're not interviewing for a new job if your company gets acquired, you are wrong.
Oh,
you
yeah.
are.
You're
If your
immediately
company
interviewing
gets
for a new
acquired,
job.
you're also interviewing for a new job.
100%.
So think about that and think about, do you want to apply for your job again at your current job?
Yeah, or shift it.
Or shift it and apply somewhere else because the process is going to be very similar.
Absolutely.
And actually, the acquisition one's probably more painful.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. If you like this episode, like, subscribe, comment, share, save, and we'll bring more of this content to you.
See you later, guys.
Bye.